Hello everybody, and welcome to another Flaming Dice Reviews video. My name is Matt, and today we're going to be taking a look at a wonderful little game called Small Star Empires. Now, Small Star Empires is going to be launching on Kickstarter soon, depending on when you watch this video, of course. We're going to take a brief look at how the game plays, what comes inside at least this prototype that I received from the designer, and then we'll talk about my final thoughts on the game. And I'll meet you back here soon. Now let's quickly take a look at what comes inside of Small Star Empires. And bear in mind, this is still a prototype that I'm showing here, so the final game may look a little bit different. Now the core of the game are these tiles, and they make up the modular playing area. The game supports between 2 and 4 players, and depending on how many players there are, the instructions recommend a different setup. And it's very easy, and these are double-sided. So each side has a little bit of a different encounter. Each one of these hexagons on all of these tiles represent a star system. And players are vying for control of these star systems. But the gameplay is so simple. Every time you move one of your ships, represented by these cones, you place either a trade station or a colony. It really is that simple. Wormholes, these blue spirals in the middle of this tile, let you warp between systems. Black holes are impassable, and this represents a homeworld system. And there's one for each of the 4 different colors. So here I've just shown one of the 4 colors, but there are 3 others. These are advanced tiles used for alternate play variants. We're not going to get into that, but I just wanted to show that it is included in the game. So here you see Small Star Empire set up for a basic 2-player game, blue versus yellow. We're going to take just a few turns here just to give you an idea of how the game is played. And as you can see, the board looks absolutely beautiful once all the tiles are put together. Now, players take turns moving one of, in a 2-player game's case, their 4 ships. And these ships travel in a straight line. And whenever the ship lands, the player has to place either a trade station or a colony. So we're just going to go back and forth here a little bit. And we're going to take the yellow player here. When he lands, he's going to establish a colony. The blue player, on his turn, is going to go across and place a colony himself. Now you notice that the different spaces have different visuals. Some of them are just systems with planets, and the more planets that a system has, the more points it's worth if you control it at the end of the game. You can also see these nebula, and these nebula are worth more points depending on how many of them you control of the same color. So we're going to continue playing. The yellow player is going to go here and place a colony. The blue player is going to go here and do the same. This yellow player on his turn is going to go here to the nebula, and instead of placing a colony, is going to place a trade station. Now the trade stations are important because the more of your opponent's colonies and trade stations that are adjacent to it at the end of the game, the more points it's worth. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit to see how the game looks in just a few minutes of me going back and forth, and you can see how complicated and strategic the game really gets. Now, through making legal moves and by alternating colors, just as you would in a regular 2-player game, I have advanced this example several rounds, about 10 rounds, so that we can see how crowded everything gets. Now, one of the most essential rules to moving is that you can't land on a space that's been previously occupied, either by yourself or by the other player. Another rule to remember that we mentioned in the beginning is that you can't fly over a black hole. So through the populating of this galaxy, this ship is essentially trapped. While you can fly over your own systems, you can't land on them. So this ship can't go this way because the blue player has blocked him. This way, same thing. This way, same thing. This way, same thing. This side is blocked by a black hole, and this side is blocked by the blue player. So, of course, I did that on purpose, but you can see how ships can get completely blocked. So the yellow player has essentially lost one of his ships. He's got no legal moves for that ship. And as you can see, at the end of the game, this trade center is going to be worth 3 or multiple points because it's next to 3 enemy star systems or opponent star systems. So while we're not going to get into the exact scoring of the game, since I kind of brought it up, that's going to be worth 3 points at the end of the game. Now here I have another example of an alternate play style, or at least setup, that the instructions recommend, and that is a disjointed universe or solar system. I guess it would be universe in this case because each one of these represents a solar system. So a disjointed universe. And this is where wormholes come into play. So as you can see, the yellow player here and the blue player here, the player area is relatively equal. I didn't put a whole lot of time trying to make it equal. I just tried to make it symmetrical. And each one of them only has access to the same wormhole on this side, and then they have access to 2 different wormholes in this part of the universe. Now wormholes are pretty simple. Whereas a ship can travel as far as it's able to in a straight line, whenever you're using a wormhole, a player has to start its movement beside it. So in this case, the blue player might move here, and because he has to place a colony, would place it there. The yellow player, seeing that the blue player is already making a run for this part of the universe, might do the same. So he might send a ship here and place a colony. Now back to the blue player. The blue player can now use this wormhole to travel to either side of the map over here and land at one of the adjacent spaces. So the blue player might travel here and place a colony. Now it's important to remember that you can't fly over or land on a system that's already been claimed. You can fly over your own, but you can't land on your own. You can neither fly over nor land on an opponent's system. So it's very important to establish some control in a scenario like this so that you can get to the other parts of the board, even though really you've only got one shot. So it's important that once you get over there to go ahead and start laying claim, because this yellow player, now that blue's over there, might just start working his way around and claim all of these systems so that blue can no longer use that wormhole. And that's where the strategy gets so deep in this game. Even though the game is very simple, it is highly strategic and very chess-like. The final thing that I want to take a moment to point out is the artwork on the game. I think it's absolutely beautiful. Even though this is, again, just a prototype. Here you can see a black hole system. Here you can see one that has 3 planets. So at the end of the game, that's worth 3 points. You can see a red nebula here. And we'll scroll over just a little bit, see what else we can see. A green nebula and a red nebula. And again, those are worth more points the more of the same color that you control at the end of the game. And then here we have a wormhole. Now I'm not sure if this is going to be the final art for the game, but I think it is good enough to be so. Welcome back, everybody. Now that we've seen how Small Star Empires plays, let's talk about my final thoughts. Well, I really didn't know what to expect whenever I opened up my prototype package from the designer with Small Star Empires, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. The game is super fast, it's easy to learn, it's easy to teach. Even though it's a Euro style game with no direct conflict, there is a lot of conflict. Think Ticket to Ride. You can block the other players, you can cut off their system so that you get bonus points at the end. It's highly strategic. The game comes with wooden pieces, at least as of now, but I spoke to the designer and he said that some of the Kickstarter stretch goals would be to include plastic ships, or wooden ships perhaps, but ships of some sort that weren't just the cone, the cube, and the cylinder that's currently in this prototype that I showed in this video. I believe people that like the games without direct conflict, those Euro gamers, will really get behind this. I think it would be highly enjoyable to them. The game is modular in that the board can be set up just any way you can imagine. There's a lot of different examples in the rules that I received of how to set it up. The board can even be disjointed so that players have to use the wormholes to get to other parts of the board. They can't just fly there directly. I have enjoyed every single game that I have played of Small Star Empires, and if you keep up with the website, www.flamingdicereviews.com, I will be letting everybody know when it launches on Kickstarter. If you're watching this down the road, the game will hopefully already have been produced and will be available to purchase. And thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like, subscribe to the channel, and as always, visit us at www.flamingdicereviews.com and www.facebook.com/flamingdicereviews. Hope to see you there very soon. Again, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.